Antsy. Restless, apprehensive and fidgety. Deign. To condescend, to do despite a perceived affront to one's dignity. To esteem worthy, to consider worth notice. To condescend to give, to do something. Frock. A dress, a piece of clothing for a female, which consists of a skirt and a cover for the upper body. A sailor's jersey. An outer garment worn by priests and other clericals, a habit. Scuff. The back part of the neck, the scruff. A mark left by scuffing or scraping. To hit lightly, to brush against. To mishit a shot on a ball, due to poor contact with the ball. To scrape the feet while walking. Tynan. To enclose, fence in. Avenge. An act of vengeance, or revenge. To take vengeance for, to exact satisfaction for by punishing the injuring party, to vindicate by inflicting pain or evil on a wrongdoer. To treat revengefully, to wreak vengeance on. Berate. To chide or scold vehemently. Bowgy. Fancy or good-looking, without the same connotations of snobbery or pretentiousness. Behaving like or pertaining to people of a higher social status, middle-class bourgeois people sometimes carrying connotations of fakeness, elitism, or snobbery. A tapered cylindrical instrument for introducing an object into a tubular anatomical structure, or to dilate such a structure, as with an esophageal bowgy. A wax candle. Chancy. Lucky, bringing good luck. Subject to chance, random. Uncertain, risky, hazardous. Crummy. Full of crumb or crumbs. Soft, like the crumb of bread, not crusty. Bad, poor. A small van, bus, or railway car used to transport loggers, or other resource workers to and from the worksite. Detest. To dislike someone or something intensely, to loathe. To witness against, to denounce, to condemn. Dither. The state of being undecided. To be uncertain, or unable to make a decision about doing something. To do something nervously. To tremble, shake, or shiver with cold. Ersatz. Made in imitation, artificial, especially of a poor quality. Something made in imitation, an effigy or substitute. Flaxen. A pale yellow-brown, the color of dried flax stalks, and of the fiber obtained therefrom. Made of or resembling flax fibers. Frolic. A playful antic. To make merry, to have fun, to romp, to behave playfully and uninhibitedly, to cause to be merry. Frothy. Lightweight, lacking depth or substance. Foamy or churned to the point of becoming infused with bubbles. A serving of beer. Gaggle. Any group or gathering of related things. A group of geese, when they are on the ground, or on the water. To make a noise like a goose, to cackle. Gilly. A gill of an alcoholic drink, to be a gilly, a fishing or hunting guide, for someone. Gulden. An old currency of the Netherlands, and its overseas territory the Netherlands Antilles. Impale. To pierce something with any long, pointed object. To place two coats of arms side by side on the same shield, often those of two spouses upon marriage. To enclose or fence with stakes. To pierce with a pale, to put to death, by fixing on a sharp stake. Impugn. Dispute the truth, validity, or honesty of a statement or motive, call into question. Jitney. An informal lawn bowling or curling competition in which all players present are randomly drawn into teams. Very inexpensive. A shared ride taxi. A small bus or minibus which typically operates service on a fixed route, sometimes scheduled. Nipper. A child. Any of various devices as pincers for nipping. A young bluefish. One of a pair of automatically locking handcuffs. To seize two ropes together. Pestle. A constable's or bailiff's staff, so called from its shape. A club-shaped, round-headed stick used in a mortar to pound, crush, rub, or grind things. The leg and leg bone of an animal, especially of a pig. To pound, crush, rub, or grind, as in a mortar with a pestle. Phooey. Nonsense. Pincer. Any object that resembles one half of a pair of pincers. To surround with a pincer attack. Ragtag. Unkempt, shabby, or in a state of disrepair. Very diverse, having irregular and dissimilar components. Renege. In a card game, to break one's commitment, to follow suit when capable. To break a promise or commitment, to go back on one's word. To deny, to renounce. Rumpus. A rumpus room. A noisy, sometimes violent disturbance, noise and confusion, a quarrel. Sadist. One who derives pleasure through cruelty or pain to others. Scrawl. A broken branch of a tree. Writing that lacks literary merit. To creep, crawl, by extension, to swarm with crawling things. To write unskillfully and inelegantly. To write something hastily or illegibly. Scurvy. Contemptible, despicable, low, disgustingly mean. Covered or affected with scurf or scabs, scabby, scurfy, specifically, diseased with the scurvy. A disease caused by insufficient intake of vitamin C leading to the formation of livid spots on the skin, spongy gums, loosening of the teeth and bleeding into the skin, and from almost all mucous membranes. Seethe. To boil vigorously. To foam in an agitated manner, as if boiling. To be in an agitated or angry mental state, as if boiling. To buzz with activity. To boil. Senile. Exhibiting the deterioration in mind and body often accompanying old age, doddering. Of, or relating to old age. A person who is senile. Sifter. One who sifts. A tool for sifting, especially one for powdered cooking ingredients. Any lamellirostral bird, as a duck or goose, so called because it sifts, or strains its food from the water and mud by means of the lamellae of the beak. Snitch. A thief. An informer, usually one who betrays his group. To steal, quickly and quietly. To contact or cooperate with the police for any reason. To inform on, especially in betrayal of others. Snooty. Elite, exclusive. Pompous, snobbish, inclined to turn up one's nose. Sordid. Dirty or squalid. Distasteful, ignoble, vile, or contemptible. Grasping, stingy, avaricious. Morally degrading. Of a dull color. Terima. To receive. Typhus. One of several similar diseases, characterized by high recurrent fever, caused by rickettsia bacteria, not to be confused with typhoid fever. Burnish. Polish something, especially metal, by rubbing. To shine forth, to brighten, to become smooth and glossy, as from swelling or filling out, hence, to grow large. To make something smooth or shiny by rubbing, to polish or shine something. To make someone or something appear positive and highly respected. Charnel. Of or relating to a charnel, dead-like, sepulchral. A chapel attached to a mortuary. A repository for dead bodies. Embargo. An official ban on trade or other commercial activity with a particular country. Impose an official ban on trade or a country or commodity. Endemic. Prevalent in a particular area or region. Peculiar to a particular area or region, not found in other places. Native to a particular area or culture, originating where it occurs. A disease affecting a number of people simultaneously, so as to show a distinct connection with certain localities. An individual or species that is endemic to a region. Equator. A similar great circle on any sphere, especially on a celestial body, or on other reasonably symmetrical three-dimensional body. An imaginary great circle around Earth, equidistant from the two poles, and dividing Earth's surface into the northern and southern hemisphere. The celestial equator. The midline of any generally spherical object, such as a fruit or vegetable, that has identifiable poles. Gentile. Not Jewish. A non-Jewish person. Heiress. A woman who has a right of inheritance, or who stands to inherit. A woman who has received an inheritance. Hideous. Ugly or disgusting to look at. Extremely unpleasant. Inhuman. Of or pertaining to inhumanity and the indifferently cruel, sadistic or barbaric behavior it brings. Transcending or different than what is human. Pissant. Insignificant or unimportant. A person seemingly incapable of focusing on anything but the trivial, especially in the sense of trivial or irrelevant criticism. A person who adheres strictly to a rule or policy despite current circumstances. An insignificant person. Pothead. A person who smokes cannabis frequently, to excess. Sabbath. A day of religious observance and abstinence from work, kept by Jewish people from Friday evening to Saturday evening, and by most Christians on Sunday. A supposed annual midnight meeting of witches with the devil. Schmuck. A deplorable, pitiful person, often in the form poor schmuck. A jerk, a person who is unlikable, detestable, or contemptible because he or she is stupid, foolish, clumsy, oafish, inept, malicious, or unpleasant. Scrooge. A miserly person, a person with an excessive dislike of spending money or other resources. To crush or press, to squeeze past, into, together, etc. Surpass. To go beyond or exceed something in an adjudicative or literal sense. Tourney. Tournament. To take part in a tournament. Agitator. A person who urges others to protest or rebel. An apparatus for stirring liquid, as in a washing machine or a photographic developing tank. Allergic. Excessively sensitive, susceptible. Of or pertaining to allergy. A person who has an allergy. Ambition. A strong desire to do, or to achieve something, typically requiring determination and hard work. A personal quality similar to motivation, not necessarily tied to a single goal. Amethyst. Having a color similar to that of the gemstone. The tincture purpure, when emblazoning the arms of the English nobility. A purple color. A transparent purple variety of quartz, used as a gemstone. Assemble. To put together. To gather as a group. Autonomy. The status of a church whose highest-ranking bishop is appointed by the patriarch of the mother church, but which is self-governing in all other respects, compare autocephaly. A self-governing country or region. The capacity of a system to make a decision about its actions without the involvement of another system or operator. The capacity to make an informed, uncoerced decision. Bigamist. One who practices bigamy. Bohemian. Unconventional, especially in habit or dress. An unconventional or nonconformist artist or writer. Casualty. A person in military service who becomes unavailable for duty, for any reason, notably death, injury, illness, capture, or desertion. A person suffering from injuries, or who has been killed due to an accident, or through an act of violence. Someone or something adversely affected by a decision, event, or situation. Something that happens by chance, especially an unfortunate event, an accident, a disaster. Clemency. A pardon, commutation, or similar reduction, removal, or postponement of legal penalties by an executive officer of a state. Mildness of weather. The gentle or kind exercise of power, leniency, mercy, compassion in judging or punishing. Commence. To begin, start. Contempt. Open disrespect or willful disobedience of the authority of a court of law or legislative body. The state or act of contemning, the feeling or attitude of regarding someone or something as inferior, base, or worthless, scorn, disdain. The state of being despised or dishonored, disgrace. Cortical. Pertaining to the outer layer of an internal organ or body structure, such as the kidney or the brain. Pertaining to the cortex of a stem, or root tissue that lies inward from the epidermis, but exterior to the vascular tissue. Credible. Authentic or convincing. Believable or plausible. Decadent. Characterized by moral or cultural decline. Luxuriously self-indulgent. A person affected by moral decay. Dementia. A progressive decline in cognitive function due to damage or disease in the brain beyond what might be expected from normal aging. Areas particularly affected include memory, attention, judgment, language, and problem solving. Devotion. Love, loyalty, or enthusiasm for a person, activity, or cause. Discreet. Not drawing attention, anger, or challenge, inconspicuous. Respectful of privacy or secrecy, exercising caution in order to avoid causing embarrassment, quiet, diplomatic. Disorder. A physical or mental malfunction. A disturbance of civic peace, or of public order. Absence of order, state of not being arranged in an orderly manner. To knock out of order or sequence. To throw into a state of disorder. Epidemic. Like or having to do with an epidemic, widespread. An occurrence of a disease or disorder in a population at a frequency higher than that expected in a given time period. The spreading of an idea or belief amongst a population. A widespread disease that affects many individuals in a population. Explicit. Containing material e.g., language, or film footage that might be deemed offensive or graphic. Very specific, clear, or detailed. Felicity. Something that is either a source of happiness, or particularly apparent in apt and pleasing style in speech, writing, etc., countable and apt and pleasing choice of words. Happiness, countable an instance of this. Good luck, success, countable an instance of unexpected good luck, a stroke of luck, also, a lucky characteristic. Reproduction of a sign with fidelity. Figurine. A small carved or molded figure, a statuette. Fluttery. showing nervousness or excitement. Genocide. The deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. To commit genocide against, to eliminate a group of people completely. Graffiti. Informal inscriptions, figure drawings, etc., as opposed to official inscriptions. Drawings are words drawn on a surface in a public place, usually made without authorization. To mark a surface with such images. Harangue. A tirade, harsh scolding or rant, whether spoken or written. An impassioned, disputatious public speech. To give a forceful and lengthy lecture or criticism to someone. Ideology. The study of the origin and nature of ideas. Doctrine, philosophy, body of beliefs or principles belonging to an individual or group. Ignorant. Ill-mannered, crude. Not knowing a fact or facts, unaware of something. Resulting from ignorance, foolish, silly. One who is ignorant. Indicate. To investigate the condition or power of, as of steam engine, by means of an indicator. To point out, to discover, to direct to a knowledge of, to show, to make known. To show or manifest by symptoms, to point to as the proper remedies. To signal in a vehicle the desire to turn right or left. Insanity. The state of being insane, madness. Manifold. Many and various. A pipe fitting or similar device that connects multiple inputs or outputs. Massacre. The killing of a considerable number usually limited to people, where little or no resistance can be made, with indiscriminate violence, without necessity, and contrary to civilized norms. To kill in considerable numbers where little or no resistance can be made, with indiscriminate violence, without necessity, and contrary to civilized norms, often limited to the killing of human beings. Medieval. Having characteristics associated with the Middle Ages in popular, modern cultural perception archaic, brutal. Of or relating to the Middle Ages, the period from approximately 500 to 1500 AD. A medieval example of something aforementioned or understood from context. Someone living in the Middle Ages. Metaphor. The use of an everyday object or concept to represent an underlying facet of the computer, and thus aid users in performing tasks. A word or phrase used in such implied comparison. The use of a word or phrase to refer to something other than its literal meaning, invoking an implicit similarity between the thing described and what is denoted by the word or phrase. To describe by means of a metaphor. Muscular. Robust, strong. Of, relating to, or connected with muscles. Brawny, buoy, having strength. Having large, well-developed muscles. Nautical. Relating to or involving ships or shipping or navigation or seamen. Nurture. A person who nurtures someone or something. Obstacle. Something that impedes, stands in the way of, or holds up progress, either physically or figuratively. Overload. An excessive load. The damage done, or the outage caused by such a load. To fail due to excessive load. To provide too much power to a circuit. Pavilion. A detached or semi-detached building at a hospital or other building complex. A light-roofed structure used as a shelter in a public place. A structure, sometimes temporary, erected to house exhibits at a fair, etc. The lower surface of a brilliant cut gemstone, lying between the girdle and collet. Peculiar. Common or usual for a certain place or circumstance, specific or particular. Out of the ordinary, odd, strange, unusual. An ecclesiastical district, parish, chapel, or church outside the jurisdiction of the bishop of the diocese in which it is situated. That which is peculiar, a sole or exclusive property, a prerogative, a characteristic. Precinct. A pedestrianized and uncovered shopping area. A subdivision of a city or town for the purposes of voting and representation in city or town government. In cities, precincts may be grouped into wards. A subdivision of a city under the jurisdiction of a specific group of police, the police station situated in that district. An enclosed space having defined limits, normally marked by walls. Pre-trial. Before a trial. Pertaining to a preliminary trial. A preliminary trial held in advance of a court trial. Proximal. Closer to the point of attachment or observation. Facing toward another tooth, the proximal surfaces of a tooth are those that touch, or are close to neighboring teeth. Closer to the speaker. Punitive. Inflicting punishment, punishing. Radiator. A bin that radiates or emits light, heat, or sound. An engine cooling device in a motor vehicle or aircraft consisting of a bank of thin tubes in which circulating fluid is cooled by the surrounding air. Riddance. The act of being rid of something, deliverance. The earth thrown up by a burrowing animal. Ridicule. An object of sport or laughter, a laughingstock. The quality of being ridiculous, ridiculousness. Derision, mocking or humiliating words or behavior. To criticize or disapprove of someone or something through scornful jocularity, to make fun of. Schmancy. Fancy, especially in a contrived or pretentious fashion. Sedative. Calming, soothing, inducing sleep, tranquilizing. An agent or drug that sedates, having a calming or soothing effect, or inducing sleep. Sinecure. Having the appearance of functionality without being of any actual use or purpose. Requiring no work for an ample reward, in general this usage is tautological, and should be avoided. An ecclesiastical benefice without the care of souls. A position that requires no work, but still gives an ample payment, a cushy job. To put her place in a sinecure. Sorority. A social organization of female students at a college or university, usually identified by Greek letters. A group of girls or women associated for a common purpose, a sisterhood. Stampede. Any sudden unconcerted moving or acting together of a number of persons, as from some common impulse. A wild, headlong scamper, or running away, of a number of animals, usually caused by fright. To disperse by causing sudden fright, as a herd, or drove of animals. Synaptic. Of or relating to a synapsis, the association of homologous maternal and paternal chromosomes during the initial part of meiosis. Of or relating to a synapsid junction between the terminal of a neuron and another cell. Tangible. Comprehensible by the mind, understandable. Possible to be treated as fact, real or concrete. A physical object, something that can be touched. Tolerate. To allow something that one dislikes or disagrees with, to exist or occur without interference. Watchdog. An individual or group that monitors the activities of another entity such as an individual, corporation, non-profit group, or governmental organization on behalf of the public to ensure that entity does not behave illegally or unethically. A guard dog. Abundance. A large quantity, many. An overflowing fullness or ample sufficiency, profusion, copious supply, superfluity, plentifulness. Wealth, affluence, plentiful amount of resources. Acquittal. Payment of a debt or other obligation, reparations, amends. Adornment. A decoration, that which adorns. The act of decorating. Adulation. Flattery, fulsome praise. Affiliate. To adopt, to receive into a family as one's offspring. To connect in the way of descent, to trace origin to. To bring or receive into close connection, to ally. Amendment. An addition to and/or alteration to the Constitution. An alteration or change for the better, correction of a fault or of faults, reformation of life by quitting vices. A minor change or addition designed to improve a text, piece of legislation, etc. Anarchist. Relating to anarchism or to anarchists, anarchistic. One who promotes chaos and lawlessness. One who believes in or advocates the absence of hierarchy and authority in most forms. Compare anarchism, especially one who works toward the realization of such. One who disregards laws and social norms as a form of rebellion against authority. One who resents outside control or influence on their life, in particular a government, and therefore desires the absence of political control. Antiserum. A serum prepared from human or animal sources containing antibodies specific for combating an infectious disease. Appendage. A natural prolongation or projection from a part of any organism. A part that is joined to something larger. An external body part that projects from the body. Awareness. The state or level of consciousness, where sense data can be confirmed by an observer. The state or quality of being aware of something. Barricade. A barrier constructed across a road, especially as a military defense. An obstacle, barrier, or bulwark. This term needs a definition. Please help out, and add a definition, then remove the text or fif. To close or block a road, etc., using a barricade. To keep someone in or out, using a blockade, especially ships in a port. Bedridden. Confined to bed, because of infirmity or illness. Bombastic. Inflated, overfilled. Showy in speech and given to using flowery or elaborate terms, grandiloquent, pompous. High-sounding but with little meaning. Bushwhack. To ambush. To fight, as a guerrilla, especially in wooded country. To travel through thick wooded country, cutting away scrub to make progress. Carnality. A preoccupation with sexual desire. The state of being carnal. Cataclysm. A sudden and violent change in the earth's crust. A great flood. A sudden, violent event. Catatonic. Motionless and unresponsive, as from shock, withdrawn. Of, relating to, or suffering from catatonia. A patient in a state of catatonia. Charlatan. A mountebank, someone who addresses crowds in the street, especially, an itinerant seller of medicines or drugs. A malicious trickster, a fake person, especially one who deceives for personal profit. Chocolate. Containing chocolate. Having some characteristics of chocolate. Clearance. The action or process of removing, or getting rid of something, or of something's dispersing. Official authorization for something to proceed or take place. A permission to have access to sensitive or secret documents or other information. Confessio. A confession, a defense of one's faith, or a confession of guilt. Contusion. A wound, such as a bruise, in which the skin is not broken, often having broken blood vessels and discoloration. The act of bruising. Culminate. To reach a climax, to come to the decisive point, especially as an end or conclusion. To finalize, bring to a conclusion, form the climax of. Cuniculus. A burrow in the skin made by a mite. A burrow or low underground passage. Debutante. A female debutante, especially in sport and entertainment. A young woman who makes her first formal appearance in society. Decertify. To annul the certification of. To annul a labor union. Democracy. A state with a democratic system of government. A government under the direct or representative rule of the people of its jurisdiction. Dependent. Contingent on or determined by. Requiring someone or something for financial, emotional, or other support. A person who relies on another, especially a family member, for financial support. Depravity. A particular depraved act or trait. The state or condition of being depraved, moral debasement. Inborn corruption, entailing the belief that every facet of human nature has been polluted, defiled, and contaminated by sin. Discredit. A person or thing that causes harm to a reputation, as of a person, family, or institution. A degree of dishonor or disesteem, ill repute, reproach. The state of being discredited or disbelieved. To harm the good reputation of a person, to cause an idea or piece of evidence to seem false or unreliable. Dysentery. A disease characterized by inflammation of the intestines, especially the colon large intestine, accompanied by pus white blood cells in the feces, fever, pain in the abdomen, high volume of diarrhea, and possible blood in the feces. Economize. To practice being economical, by using things sparingly or in moderation, and by avoiding waste or extravagance. To use frugally. Ecosystem. A set of interconnected products and services. A system formed by an ecological community and its environment that functions as a unit. The interconnectedness of organisms, plants, animals, microbes, with each other and their environment. Editorial. Appropriate for high-fashion magazines. Of or relating to an editor, editing or an editorial. A similar commentary on radio or television. An article in a publication giving the opinion of its editors on a given topic or current event. Egomaniac. A person obsessed with their own supposed importance. Encourage. To foster, give help or patronage. To mentally support, to motivate, give courage, hope or spirit. To spur on, strongly recommend. Endearing. Inspiring affection or love, often in a childlike way. Endorphin. Any of a group of peptide hormones found in the brain that act as neurotransmitters and have properties similar to morphine. Ephemeris. A table giving the apparent position of celestial bodies throughout the year, normally given as right ascension and declination. A journal or diary. Software that calculates the apparent position of celestial bodies. Evocative. That which evokes brings to mind a memory, mood, idea, feeling, or image, redolent, or reminiscent. Evolution. The process by which different kinds of living organisms are thought to have developed and diversified from earlier forms during the history of the Earth. The gradual development of something, especially from a simple to a more complex form. Exchequer. A treasury. An available fund of money, especially one for a specific purpose. To proceed against a person in the court of exchequer. Fantasize. To indulge in fantasy, to imagine things only possible in fantasy. To portray in the mind, using fantasy. Fertility. The birth rate of a population, the number of live births per 1,000 people per year. The condition, or the degree, of being fertile. The average number of births per woman within a population. Financial. Having dues and fees paid up to date for a club or society. Related to finances. Fundament. Foundation. The underlying basis or principle for a theoretical or mathematical system. Galvanize. To electrify. To coat with a thin layer of metal by electrochemical means. To shock or stimulate into sudden activity, as if by electric shock. To switch sides between Union and Confederate in the American Civil War. To coat with rust-resistant zinc. Gastritis. Inflammation of the lining of the stomach, characterized by nausea, loss of appetite, and upper abdominal discomfort or pain. Gazillion. An unspecified large number of. Grandiose. Large and impressive, in size, scope or extent. Pompous or pretentious. Haphazard. Random, chaotic, incomplete, not thorough, constant, or consistent. Simple chance, a random accident, luck. Heretical. Contrary to mainstream or accepted opinion. Of or pertaining to heresy or heretics. Homophobe. A person who fears men. A person who fears sameness. A person who is prejudiced against homosexuals and homosexuality. Humongous. Of an extremely large size. Hypocrite. Someone who practices hypocrisy, who pretends to hold beliefs, or whose actions are not consistent with their claimed beliefs. Ignoramus. A grand jury's ruling on an indictment, when the evidence is determined to be insufficient to send the case to trial. A totally ignorant person, unknowledgeable, uneducated, or uninformed, a fool. Incursion. An aggressive movement into somewhere, an invasion. Indicator. A gauge or meter of a specified kind. A thing, especially a trend or fact, that indicates the state or level of something. Indignity. An affront to one's dignity or pride. Degradation, debasement, or humiliation. Indolence. Habitual laziness or sloth. Infantile. Childish, immature. Pertaining to infants. Insomniac. Suffering from or pertaining to insomnia. One who suffers an inability or difficulty sleeping, a sufferer from insomnia. Lecherous. Given to excessive sexual activity and debauchery. Liability. A handicap that holds something back, a drawback, someone or something that is a burden to whoever is required to take care of them, an individual or action that exposes others to greater risk. An obligation, debt or responsibility owed to someone. The condition of being susceptible to something. The likelihood of something happening. Matrimony. The ceremony of marriage. A particular solid or card game using 2 decks of cards. Marriage, the state of being married. Minuscule. Very small, tiny. A lowercase letter. Either of the 2 medieval handwriting styles, minuscule cursive and Caroline minuscule. Molecular. Of an element combined with itself, and with no other element, elemental. Relating to, or consisting of, or produced by molecules. Relating to molecular gastronomy. Relating to a simpler basic structure or organization. Any compound having a specified range of molecular weights. Momentary. Lasting for a very short time. Monsignor. Alternative letter case form of Monsignor. Nutrition. The organic process by which an organism assimilates food and uses it for growth and maintenance. that which nourishes, nutriment. Obfuscate. To alter code, while preserving its behavior, but concealing its structure and intent. To deliberately make more confusing, in order to conceal the truth. To make dark, overshadow. Obscenely. In an excessive manner. In an obscene manner, vulgarly. Ominously. In an ominous manner, with sinister foreboding. Outermost. Superlative form of outer, most outer. That which is outermost, the surface, the outside. Pageantry. A pageant, a colorful show or display, as in a pageant. Parameter. A characteristic or feature that distinguishes something from others. A value kept constant during an experiment, equation, calculation or similar, but varied over other versions of the experiment, equation, calculation, etc. Parsonage. The house, lands, tithes, etc., set apart for the support of the minister of a parish. The residence of the minister of a parish. Peperomia. Any plant of the genus Peperomia, some of which are popular houseplants. Personage. A person, especially one who is famous or important. Character represented, external appearance, persona. The creation of corporate persons named after living people. Political. Motivated, especially inappropriately, by political electoral or other party political calculation. Concerning a polity or its administrative components. Concerning or relating to politics, the art and process of governing. Of or relating to views about social relationships that involve power or authority. A political agent or officer. Posterity. All the future generations, especially the descendants of a specific person. Potentate. Renant, powerful, dominant. A self-important person. Someone acting in an important role. A powerful leader, a monarch, a ruler. A powerful polity or institution. Prankster. One who performs pranks. Prejudice. Harm or injury that results, or may result from some action or judgment. Preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. Give rise to prejudice in someone, make biased. Primarily. Of a primary or central nature, first and foremost. Primitive. Occurring in or characteristic of an early stage of development or evolution. Original, primary, radical, not derived. Of or pertaining to or harking back to a former time, old-fashioned, characterized by simplicity. A simple-minded person. Principle. Primary, most important, first level in importance. Procedure. A particular method for performing a task. A series of small tasks or steps taken to accomplish an end. The steps taken in an action or other legal proceeding. Processor. A central processing unit. A device which processes, which changes something, a computer processor, food processor, etc. A microprocessor. A person or institution who processes things, foods, photos, applications, etc. Rapturous. Full of rapture. Reconvene. To come together again. To resume something that has been convened and then paused. Religious. Committed to the practice or adherence of religion. Concerning religion. Highly dedicated, as one would be to a religion. A member of a religious order, i.e., a monk or nun. Reminisce. An act of reminiscence. To recall the past in a private moment, often fondly or nostalgically. To talk or write about memories of the past, especially pleasant memories. To remember fondly, to reminisce about. Repulsive. Having the capacity to repel. Cold, reserved, forbidding. Tending to rouse aversion or to repulse, disgusting. Sacrilege. Desecration, profanation, misuse or violation of something regarded as sacred. Sanctuary. A place of safety, refuge, or protection. A state of being protected, asylum. An area set aside for protection. The consecrated or sacred area of a church or temple around its tabernacle or altar. Seclusion. The mature phase of the extratropical cyclone life cycle. A secluded, isolated or private place. The act of secluding, shutting out or keeping apart. The state of being secluded or shut out, as from company, society, the world, etc., solitude. Shithouse. Of poor quality. A coward, one who is overly fearful or timid. An outhouse, an outbuilding used as a lavatory. Shitstorm. Considerable backlash from the public. A chaotic and unpleasant or violent situation. Skedaddle. The act of running away, as scurrying off. To move or run away quickly. To spill, to scatter. Socialize. To interact with others. To instruct somebody, usually subconsciously, in the etiquette of a society. To take something into collective or governmental ownership. Sociopath. A person with an antisocial personality disorder. Soliloquy. A speech or written discourse in this form. The act of a character speaking to themselves so as to reveal their thoughts to the audience. To issue a soliloquy. Spiritual. Relating to or affecting the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. Relating to religion or religious belief. A Christian religious song, especially one in an African American style, or a similar non-religious song. Splendor. Magnificent and splendid appearance, grandeur. Magnificent features or qualities. Stipulate. Demand or specify a requirement, typically as part of a bargain or agreement. Stratagem. Skill in devising plans or schemes, cunning. A plan or scheme, especially one used to outwit an opponent or achieve an end. Suffocate. Suffocated, choked. To die due to, or kill someone by means of, insufficient oxygen supply to the body. To suffer, or cause someone to suffer, from severely reduced oxygen intake to the body. To overwhelm, or be overwhelmed by a person or issue, as though with oxygen deprivation. To destroy, to extinguish. Temptress. A woman considered sexually attractive by men. An alluring woman who seduces or exploits men. Tolerably. Reasonably, acceptably, somewhat. In a tolerable manner, to an extent that can be tolerated. Treachery. An act or instance of treachery. Deliberate, often calculated, disregard for trust or faith. The act of violating the confidence of another, usually for personal gain. Treason. Umpteenth. Occurring in a relatively large, but unspecified position in a sequence. Vaginally. Be the vagina, as usually, more specifically, by the vaginal route of administration. Vandalize. Deliberately destroy or damage public or private property. Vertebrae. Each of the series of small bones forming the backbone, having several projections for articulation and muscle attachment, and a hole through which the spinal cord passes. Voracious. Having a great appetite for anything. Wanting or devouring great quantities of food. Woebegone. Filled with or deeply affected by woe. In a deplorable state. Abstinence. Delay of spending to accrue capital. The practice of self-denial, self-restraint, forbearance from anything. Accessible. Easy to get along with. Built or designed, as to be usable by people with disabilities. Capable of being used or seen. Alternator. An electric generator which produces alternating current through mechanical means. Anesthetic. Causing anesthesia, reducing pain sensitivity. Insensate, unable to feel, or unconscious. A substance administered to reduce the perception of pain, or to induce numbness for surgery, and may render the recipient unconscious. Attraction. The action or power of evoking interest, pleasure, or liking for someone or something. An event, location, or business that has a tendency to draw interest from visitors, and in many cases, local residents. A quality or feature that evokes interest, liking, or desire. The feeling of being attracted. Automotive. Having the ability to move by itself, self-propelled or self-propelling. Of, or relating to motor vehicles. Bankruptcy. A legally declared or recognized condition of insolvency of a person or organization. Cannelloni. Wide tubes of pasta filled with a savory stuffing, and baked in the oven. Capability. A digital token allowing a user, or process to interact in a specified way with an object that is subject to access control, the power or ability to generate an outcome. Capitalist. Of, or pertaining to, capitalism. Supporting or endorsing capitalism. A person who is a supporter of capitalism. Someone whose wealth capital is invested in business ventures in order to return a profit. The owner of a considerable amount of capital, a wealthy person. Capricious. Impulsive and unpredictable, determined by chance, impulse, or whim. Cautionary. Held as security or hostage. Serving to caution or warn, admonitory. Serving to ward off, preventive. Chancellor. A senior record keeper of a cathedral, a senior legal officer for a bishop or diocese in charge of hearing cases involving ecclesiastical law. The chief judge of a court of chancery, that is, one exercising equity jurisdiction. The head of a university, sometimes purely ceremonial. A senior secretary or official with administrative or legal duties, sometimes in charge of some area of government such as finance or justice. The head of the government in some German-speaking countries. Charitable. Having a purpose or character of a charity. Kind, generous. Pertaining to charity. Chauvinism. Excessive patriotism, eagerness for national superiority, jingoism. Unwarranted bias, favoritism, or devotion to one's own particular group, cause, or idea. Classified. Formally assigned by a government to one of several levels of sensitivity, usually top secret, confidential, thereby making disclosure to unauthorized persons illegal. Not meant to be disclosed by a person or organization. Sorted into classes or categories. Coloratura. Pertaining to coloratura. A singer of such passages, especially a soprano. Florid or fancy passages in vocal music. Conception. An image, idea, or notion formed in the mind, a concept, plan or design. The start of pregnancy. The state of being conceived, the beginning. Conjecture. A statement or an idea which is unproven, but is thought to be true, a guess. A supposition based upon incomplete evidence, a hypothesis. To guess, to venture an unproven idea. To infer on slight evidence, to guess at. Conspiracy. An agreement between two or more persons, to break the law at some time in the future. The act of two or more persons, called conspirators, working secretly to obtain some goal, usually understood with negative connotations. Consultant. A person whose occupation is to be consulted for their expertise, advice, or help in an area or specialty, a party whose business is to be similarly consulted. Convenient. Serving to reduce a difficulty, or accessible with minimum difficulty, expedient. Convention. A formal deliberative assembly of mandated delegates. A meeting or gathering. The convening of a formal meeting. Coronation. A success in the face of little or no opposition. The act or solemnity of crowning a sovereign, the act of investing a prince with the insignia of royalty, on his succeeding to the sovereignty. Critically. At a crisis or critical time, in a situation, place, or condition of decisive consequence. In a critical manner, with, or in terms of, criticism. Decapitate. To oust or destroy the leadership or ruling body of a government, etc., to remove the head of. Depression. Feelings of severe despondency and dejection. A long and severe recession in an economy or market. Discipline. The practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior, using punishment to correct disobedience. A branch of knowledge, typically one studied in higher education. To teach someone to obey authority. To train someone by instruction and practice. Disruption. A breaking or bursting apart, a breach. A continuing act of disorder. An interruption to the regular flow or sequence of something. Dissension. An act of expressing dissent, especially spoken. Strong disagreement, a contention or quarrel, discord. Economical. Relating to economy in any other sense. Careful with money so as not to spend too much, prudent, thrifty. Saving money or resources. Emasculate. Deprive a man of his male role or identity. Make someone or something weaker or less effective. Ergotamine. An alkaloid, extracted from ergot, that causes constriction of blood vessels, and has been used to treat migraine. It is related to lysergic acid. Erotically. In an erotic manner. Escalation. The reassignment of a difficult customer problem to someone whose job is dedicated to handling such cases. A deliberate or premeditated increase in the violence or geographic scope of a conflict. An increase or rise, especially one to counteract a perceived discrepancy. Extinction. The absorption or scattering of electromagnetic radiation emitted by astronomical objects, by intervening dust and gas before it reaches the observer. The inability to perceive multiple stimuli simultaneously. The fading of a conditioned response over time, if it is not reinforced. The action of making or becoming extinct, annihilation. Federation. Act of joining together into a single political entity. Any society or organization formed from separate groups or bodies. Array of nations or states that are unified under one central authority which is elected by its members. Fertilizer. A chemical compound created to have the same effect. A natural substance that is used to make the ground more suitable for growing plants. Generosity. good breeding, nobility of stock. A generous act. The trait of being abundant, more than adequate. The trait of being willing to donate money, time or resources. Geographic. Determined by geography, as opposed to magnetic i.e., north. Pertaining to geography or to geographics. Hantavirus. Any virus of the genus Hantavirus, transmitted by aerosolized rodent excreta or rodent bites, especially the deer mouse. Hantaviruses cause hantavirus pulmonary syndrome HPS. Incubation lasts for 15 weeks. Sickness begins with fever and muscle aches, followed by shortness of breath and coughing. Heartthrob. A heartbeat. The object of one's desires or infatuation, a sweetheart. A usually handsome, attractive male celebrity. Heroically. In a heroic manner, like a hero. Homunculus. A miniature man, once imagined by spermists to be present in human sperm. The nerve map of the human body that exists on the parietal lobe of the human brain. Illuminate. Someone thought to have an unusual degree of enlightenment. To be exposed to light. To decorate something with lights. To clarify or make something understandable. To make spectacular. Imperative. Of, or relating to the imperative mood. Essential, crucial, extremely important. Expressing a command, authoritatively or absolutely directive. Indecisive. Inconclusive or uncertain. Not decisive, not marked by promptness or decision. Indiscreet. Not discreet, lacking in discretion. Inevitably. As usual, predictably, as expected. In a manner that is impossible to avoid or prevent. Infidelity. Lack of religious belief. Unfaithfulness in a marriage or an intimate relationship, practice or instance of having a sexual or romantic affair with someone other than one's spouse, without the consent of the spouse. Unfaithfulness in some other moral obligation. Inoperable. Incapable of being successfully surgically operated on. Incapable of operation or function, inoperative. Intoxicate. Overexcited, as with joy or grief. To excite to enthusiasm or madness. To stupefy by doping with chemical substances such as alcohol. Invigorate. To give life or energy to. To heighten or intensify. To impart vigor, strength, or vitality to. To make lively. Jeopardize. To put in jeopardy, to threaten. Lascivious. Wanton, lewd, driven by lust, lustful. Legitimate. Authentic, real, genuine. Conforming to known principles, or established or accepted rules or standards, valid. In accordance with the law or established legal forms and requirements. Relating to hereditary rights. Masquerade. An act of living under false pretenses, a concealment of something by a false or unreal show, a disguise, a pretense, also, a pretentious display. An assembly of varied, often fanciful, things. An assembly or party of people wearing usually elaborate or fanciful masks and costumes, and amusing themselves with dancing, conversation, or other diversions. To pass off as a different person or a person with qualities that one does not possess, also, to make a pretentious show of being what one is not. Meddlesome. Characterized or marked by meddling, inclined or having a tendency to meddle, or interfere in other people's business. Meditation. A contemplative discourse, often on a religious or philosophical subject. A devotional exercise of, or leading to contemplation. A musical theme treated in a meditative manner. Careful and thorough thought. Melancholy. Affected with great sadness or depression. Great sadness or depression, especially of a thoughtful or introspective nature. Mendacious. Lying, untruthful or dishonest. False or untrue. Menopausal. Of, or pertaining to the menopause. Metabolism. The processes that maintain any dynamic system. The chemical processes that occur within a living organism in order to maintain life. Monticello. Mound, heap. Small mountain, hillock. Negligence. Failure to use reasonable care, resulting in damage or injury to another. Failure to take proper care in doing something. Nutritious. Providing nutrients, healthy to eat. Obligation. A legal agreement stipulating a specified action or forbearance by a party to the agreement, the document containing such agreement. A course of action imposed by society, law, or conscience by which someone is bound or restricted. A social, legal, or moral requirement, duty, contract, or promise that compels someone to follow, or avoid a particular course of action. The act of binding oneself by a social, legal, or moral tie to someone. Obsequious. Obedient, compliant with someone else's orders or wishes. Of or pertaining to obsequies, funereal. Excessively eager and attentive to please, or to obey instructions, fawning, subservient, servile. Occidental. Of a gem or precious stone, of inferior value or quality. Of, pertaining to, or situated in, the Occident, or West, Western. A Western Christian of the Latin Rite. Optimistic. Allowing other processes to perform transactions on the same data at the same time, and checking for conflicts only when changes need to be written back. Expecting the best in all possible ways. Paraphrase. A restatement of a text in different words, often to clarify meaning. To restate something as, or to compose a paraphrase. Parliament. Parliament cake, a type of gingerbread, a particular assembly of the members of such a legislature, as convened for a specific purpose or period of time. In many countries, the legislative branch of government, a deliberative assembly or set of assemblies whose elected, or appointed members meet to debate the major political issues of the day, make, amend, and repeal laws, authorize the executive branch of government to spend money, and in some cases exercise judicial powers, a legislature. Patriotism. Love of one's country, devotion to the welfare of one's compatriots, passion which inspires one to serve one's country. The actions of a patriot. The desire to compete with other nations, nationalism. Pejorative. Disparaging, belittling, or derogatory. A disparaging, belittling, or derogatory word or expression. Perpetuate. Made perpetual, continued for an indefinite time. To make perpetual, to preserve from extinction or oblivion. To prolong the existence of. Persuasive. Able to persuade, convincing. That which persuades, incitement. Phenomenon. A fact or event considered very unusual, curious, or astonishing by those who witness it. A wonderful or very remarkable person or thing. Appearance, a perceptible aspect of something that is mutable. Philosophy. A comprehensive system of belief. An academic discipline that seeks truth through reasoning rather than empiricism. A calm and thoughtful demeanor, calmness of temper. Pleasantry. Anything that promotes pleasure or merriment. A casual, courteous remark. A playful remark, a jest. Primordial. Characteristic of the earliest stage of the development of an organism, or relating to a primordium. First, earliest or original. Primeval. A first principle or element. Propulsive. Of or pertaining to propulsion. Serving to propel. Proscenium. The stage area between the curtain and the orchestra. The row of columns at the front of the scene building, at first directly behind a circular orchestra, but later upon a stage. The stage area immediately in front of the scene building. A proscenium arch. Prosecutor. A person, as a complainant, victim, or chief witness, who institutes prosecution in a criminal proceeding. A prosecuting attorney. Prospectus. A booklet or other document giving details of a share offer for the benefit of investors. A document which describes a proposed endeavor, venture, undertaking, such as a literary work which one proposes to write. A document, distributed to prospective members, investors, buyers, or participants, which describes an institution such as a university, a publication, or a business, and what it has to offer. Prosthetic. Artificial, acting as a substitute for part of the body, relating to prosthesis. In addition to an actor, etc., s body is part of a costume, intended to transform the person's appearance. An artificial replacement for part of the body, a prosthesis, prosthetic device. Psychology. The mental, emotional, and behavioral characteristics pertaining to a specified person, group, or activity. The study of animal behavior. The study of human behavior. The study of the human mind. Respondent. In the position of defendant in a lawsuit. A defendant in a lawsuit, especially one in an appeals or divorce case. A person who replies to something, especially one supplying information for a survey or questionnaire or responding to an advertisement. Rhetorical. Not earnest, or presented only for the purpose of an argument. Part of or similar to rhetoric, the use of language as a means to persuade. A study or exercise in rhetoric. Rheumatism. Any disorder of the muscles, tendons, joints, bones, nerves, characterized by pain, discomfort and disability. Atrophic arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. Sabbatical. An extended period of leave from a person's usual pursuits. Sanitation. The hygienic disposal or recycling of waste. The policy and practice of protecting health through hygienic measures. Scandalous. Malicious, defamatory. Outrageous, exceeding reasonable limits. Wrong, immoral, causing a scandal. Skepticism. A methodology that starts from a neutral standpoint and aims to acquire certainty, though scientific or logical observation. A studied attitude of questioning and doubt. Doubt or disbelief of religious doctrines. The doctrine that absolute knowledge is not possible. The practice or philosophy of being a skeptic. Solidarity. A bond of unity or agreement between individuals, united around a common goal, or against a common enemy, such as the unifying principle that defines the labor movement, mutual support within a group. Willingness to give psychological and/or material support when another person is in a difficult position or needs affection. Starvation. A state where a process is perpetually denied necessary resources to process its work. Severe shortage of resources. A condition of severe suffering due to a lack of nutrition. Statuesque. Elegantly tall, graceful, and attractive, resembling, or characteristic of a statue. Stupendous. Astonishingly great or large, huge, enormous. Of stunning excellence or degree, marvelous. Subsequent. Following a line in the earth that is more easily eroded. Following an order of place, succeeding. Following in time, coming or being after something else at any time, indefinitely. A subsequent stream or fault line. Subsidiary. Auxiliary or supplemental. Of, or relating to a subsidy. Secondary or subordinate. A subordinate beam. A company owned by a parent company or a holding company, also called daughter company or sister company. One who aids or supplies, an assistant. Subversive. Intending to subvert, overturn or undermine a government or authority. A radical supporter of political or social revolution. Succession. A passing of royal powers. A race or series of descendants. A right to take possession. An act of following in sequence. Tattletale. Telltale, giveaway. One who gossips, often for the sake of attention. One who tattles reports others' wrongdoings, often a child seeking attention. To act as a tattletale, to tell on, to give away, reveal, or expose. Terracotta. Of the color of terracotta. A hard red-brown unglazed earthenware, used for pottery and building construction. A reddish-brown color, like that of terracotta. Trajectory. The path of a body as it travels through space. The ordered set of intermediate states assumed by a dynamical system as a result of time evolution. A course of development, such as that of a war or career. The path an object takes as it moves. Vigorously. With intense energy, force or vigor. Virginicus. Of or from Virginia. Virgin. Wilderness. A place other than land, for example, the air or sea, that is uncared for, and therefore devoted to disorder or wildness. Uncultivated and unsettled land in its natural state inhabited by wild animals, and with vegetation growing wild. A place or situation that is bewildering, and in which one may get lost. Abandonment. Abandon, careless freedom or ease, surrender to one's emotions. The act of abandoning, or the state of being abandoned, total desertion, relinquishment. Adjournment. The state of being adjourned, or action of adjourning break off with the intention of resuming it later. Adversarial. In which issues are tried through the presentation of evidence and argument by adverse parties, with no or limited inquiry by the court's own initiative. Characteristic of, or in the manner of, an adversary, combative, hostile, opposed. Apocalyptic. Of or relating to an apocalypse, a disaster. Portending a future apocalypse, disaster, devastation, or doom. One who predicts apocalypse. Appallingly. In an appalling manner. Astigmatism. A defect of a lens such that light rays coming from a point do not meet at a focal point, so that the image is blurred. A disorder of the vision, usually due to a misshapen cornea, such that light does not focus correctly on the retina, causing a blurred image. Bibliophile. One who collects books, not necessarily due to any interest in reading them. One who loves books. Bisexuality. The state of being bisexual, having both male and female parts or roles. The state of being sexually or romantically attracted to members of either sex or gender. Bloodmobile. A vehicle outfitted to collect blood from donors. Carnivorous. Insectivorous, capable of trapping insects and absorbing nutrient from them. Of, or relating to carnivores, or the taxonomic order Carnivora. predatory or flesh-eating. Crematorium. A place where the bodies of dead people are cremated. Cultivation. Advancement or refinement in physical, intellectual, or moral condition. Devotion of time or attention to the improvement of something. The art or act of cultivating, improvement of land for or by agriculture. The state of being cultivated or used for agriculture. Demoralized. Having lost confidence or hope, disheartened. Distinctive. Distinguishing a particular sense of word. A distinctive thing, a quality or property permitting distinguishing. Dysfunction. A failure to function in an expected or complete manner, usually refers to a disorder in a bodily organ e.g., erectile dysfunction, a mental disorder, or the improper behavior of a social group. To fail to function correctly, to malfunction. Enchantress. A beautiful, charming and irresistible woman. A woman, especially an attractive one, skilled at using magic, an alluring witch. Equilibrium. The state of a reaction in which the rates of the forward and reverse reactions are the same. The state of a body at rest, or in uniform motion in which the resultant of all forces on it is zero. Mental balance. The condition of a system in which competing influences are balanced, resulting in no net change. Expeditious. Completed or done with efficiency and speed, facilitating speed. Fast, prompt, speedy. Exquisitely. Exceedingly, in the highest degree. In an exquisite manner. Extradition. A formal process by which a criminal suspect held by one government is handed over to another government for trial, or, if the suspect has already been tried and found guilty, to serve his or her sentence. Fabrication. The act of cutting up an animal carcass as preparation for cooking, butchery. That which is fabricated, a falsehood. The act of fabricating, framing, or constructing, construction, manufacture. Ferociously. In a ferocious manner, particularly violent and aggressive. Intensely or extremely. Foreclosure. The proceeding, by a creditor, to regain property or other collateral following a default on mortgage payments. The absence of a symbolic father for a fatherless child, as a cause for psychosis. Hyperactive. Having an increased state of activity. Having attention deficit disorder no longer used by the scientific community. Hypothermia. Abnormally low body temperature, specifically, below 35 degrees Celsius for humans. Ideological. Based on an ideology or misleading studies or statistics, especially based on the media or propaganda, not based on scientific evidence or reality. Of or pertaining to an ideology. Impertinent. Insolent, ill-mannered. Irrelevant, useless. An impertinent individual. Impetuosity. The condition or quality of being impetuous, impatient, fury, violence. The quality of making rash or arbitrary decisions, especially in an impulsive or forceful manner. Vehemence, furiousness of temper. Infatuation. The act of infatuating, the state of being infatuated, madness. An immensely strong love or sexual attraction. Something which infatuates. Inquisitive. Curious or inquiring. Unduly curious about the affairs of others, prying. Inseparable. Unable to be separated, bound together permanently. Something that cannot be separated from something else. Intolerance. An intolerant word or action. Extreme sensitivity to a food or drug, allergy. The state of being intolerant. Irrevocable. Unable to be retracted or reversed, final. Irrevocably. In an irrevocable manner, beyond recall, in a manner precluding repeal. Liposuction. A cosmetic surgery procedure in which excess fat is removed from a specific area by suction. To remove by liposuction. Mantelpiece. A shelf that is affixed to the wall above a fireplace. Masculinity. The degree or property of being masculine or manly, manliness. Masochistic. Deriving especially sexual pleasure from abuse, being punished, or dominated. Matrimonial. Of, or having to do with matrimony and marriage. A classified advertisement describing an individual who wishes to find a marriage partner. Melancholia. Depression, characterized by irrational fears, guilt and apathy. Deep sadness or gloom, melancholy. Misanthropy. Hatred or dislike of people or mankind. Misdemeanor. A crime usually punishable upon conviction by a small fine, or by a short term of imprisonment. In the USA, misdemeanants usually are incarcerated in county jail for less than 1 year, but felons usually are incarcerated in state or federal prison for more than 1 year. Crimes which are punishable by large fines, or by longer imprisonment, are sometimes called felonies. A crime usually punishable upon conviction by a small fine, or by a short term of imprisonment. Misdemeanants usually are incarcerated in county jail for less than 1 year, but felons usually are incarcerated in state or federal prison for more than 1 year. Crimes which are punishable by large fines, or by longer imprisonment, are sometimes called felonies. Momentarily. In a moment or very soon, any minute now, any time now. In a momentary manner, for a moment or instant. Progressively, moment by moment. Melogynous. Originating in, or produced by, bone marrow. Nourishment. Something that nourishes, food. The act of nourishing, or the state of being nourished. Peripatetic. Traveling from place to place, in particular working, or based in various places for relatively short periods. A person who travels from place to place. Pessimistic. Taking out exclusive locks on data to prevent conflicts with other processes that might modify it. Marked by pessimism and little hopefulness, expecting the worst. Pertaining to the worst-case scenario. Philanderer. One who plays at courtship, a fickle lover. A flirt usually applies only to men. Someone who engages in casual sex usually frequently. Prerogative. Having a hereditary or official right or privilege. A property, attribute or ability which gives one a superiority or advantage over others, an inherent advantage or privilege, a talent. A right, or power that is exclusive to a monarch, etc., especially such a power, to make a decision or judgment. Prohibitive. Presumptive winner, likely winner. Costly to the extreme, beyond budget. Tending to prohibit, preclude, or disallow. Negative imperative. Promiscuous. Indiscriminate in choice of sexual partners, or having many sexual partners. The mode in which a NIC gathers all network traffic instead of getting only the traffic intended for it. Made up of various disparate elements mixed together, of disorderly composition. Made without careful choice, indiscriminate. Provocation. The second step in OPRIST regarding the investigation of what makes the symptoms more annoy, improve, or deteriorate. Something that provokes, a provocative act. The act of provoking, inciting or annoying someone into doing something. Provocative. Serving or tending to elicit a strong, often negative sentiment in another person, exasperating. Serving or tending to excite, stimulate, or arouse sexual interest. Something that provokes an appetite, especially a sexual appetite, an aphrodisiac. Remorseless. Unyielding or relentless. Without remorse, mercy or pity. Rudimentary. Involving or limited to basic principles. Scrumptious. Delicious, delectable. Picky, fastidious. Secretarial. Connected with a secretary's work. Pertaining to a secretary. Smithereens. Fragments or splintered pieces, numerous tiny disconnected items. Sociopathic. Having the characteristics of a sociopath. Unconcerned about the adverse consequences of one's actions on others. Solipsistic. Of, relating to, or being disposed to solipsism. Self-centered, selfish. Spontaneous. Controlled and directed internally, self-active, spontaneous movement characteristic of living things. Done by one's own free choice, or without planning. Proceeding from natural feeling, or native tendency without external or conscious constraint. Self-generated, happening without any apparent external cause. Suffragette. A female supporter, often militant, of women's right to vote in the early 20th century, especially in Great Britain. Suppressant. A drug or other substance which acts to suppress or restrain something. Sympathetic. Designed in a sensitive or appropriate way. Of, related to, feeling, showing, or characterized by sympathy, showing approval of or favor towards an idea or action. Sympathizer. A person who agrees with or supports a sentiment or opinion. Synchronize. To agree, be coordinated with, or complement well. To coordinate or combine. Terminology. A treatise on terms, especially those used in a specialized field. The scientific study of such terms. The set of terms actually used in any business, art, science, or the like, nomenclature, technical terms. Topocentric. Relative to an observer, that is, relative to a point on the surface of the earth, set of a frame of reference, of a coordinate system, or the like, or of motion or position within such. Treacherous. Deceitful, inclined to betray. Exhibiting treachery. Unreliable, dangerous. Treasonable. Involving or constituting treason. Trepidation. A libration of the starry sphere in the Ptolemaic system, a motion ascribed to the firmament, to account for certain small changes in the position of the ecliptic, and of the stars. A fearful state, a state of concern or hesitation. An involuntary trembling, sometimes an effective paralysis, but usually caused by terror or fear, quaking, quivering. Trichinosis. A disease characterized by headache, chills, fever, and soreness of muscles, caused by the presence of nematodes of genus Trichinella in the intestines and muscular tissues. Valedictory. A speech given by a valedictorian at a commencement or graduation ceremony. An address given on an occasion of bidding farewell or parting company. Workability. The ease with which something can be worked or fashioned. The quality of being workable, practical capacity to succeed. Accumulation. The continuous growth of capital by retention of interest or savings. The action of investors buying an asset from other investors, when the price of the asset is low. The concurrence of several titles to the same proof. The act of amassing or gathering, as into a pile. The process of growing into a heap or a large amount. Aforethought. Premeditated, planned ahead of time. Amortization. The distribution of the cost of an intangible asset, such as an intellectual property right, over the projected useful life of the asset. The reduction of loan principal over a series of payments. Amphitheater. A natural formation of a similar shape, where a steep mountain or slope of particular rock formation forms a partial or complete bowl, especially one used as a performance space, and possibly modified by carving out seats, etc. because the slopes naturally amplify or echo sound. An open, outdoor theater which may be a theater in the round, or have a stage with seating on only one side, especially one from the classical period of ancient Greece or Rome, or a modern venue of similar design. Authenticity. The quality of being genuine, or not corrupted from the original. Truthfulness of origins, attributions, commitments, sincerity, and intentions. Biodiversity. The diversity, number, and variety of species of plant and animal life within a region. Chiropractic. Relating to chiropractics, a system of healthcare involving manipulation of the spinal column and other body structures for the purpose of alleviating neuromusculoskeletal dysfunction. Cohabitation. The act of two species living together in the same habitat. Cooperation between politicians of opposing political parties, especially, in France, between a president and prime minister. A place where two or more individuals reside together. An emotional and physical intimate relationship which includes a common living place, and which exists without legal or religious sanction. The act of living together. Conciliation. A form of alternative dispute resolution, similar to but less formal than mediation, in which the parties bring their dispute to a neutral third party, who helps lower tensions, improve communications and explore possible solutions. The process of bringing peace and harmony, the ending of strife. Conservatory. Having the quality of preserving from loss, decay, or injury. A large greenhouse or hothouse for the display of plants. A school of music or drama. Contemptible. Deserving contempt. Deliberative. That deliberates, considers carefully. A discourse in which a question is discussed, or weighed and examined. A kind of rhetoric employed, in proving a thing and convincing others of its truth, in order to persuade them to adopt it. Denomination. A unit in a series of units of weight, money, etc. that by which anything is denominated or styled, an epithet, a name, designation, or title, especially, a general name indicating a class of like individuals. A class, or society of individuals, called by the same name, a sect or religious subgroup. The act of naming or designating. Dissertation. A formal exposition of a subject, especially a research paper that students write, in order to complete the requirements for a doctoral degree, a thesis. A lengthy lecture on a subject, a treatise, a discourse, a sermon. Economically. From the perspective of economics or an economy. In an economical manner, not wastefully, not extravagantly. According to divine economy. Embezzlement. The fraudulent conversion of property from a property owner. Encephalitis. Inflammation of the brain. Episcopalian. Over advocating government of a church by bishops. Episcopal, pertaining to a bishop of any church. Equivocation. The use of ambiguous language to conceal the truth, or to avoid committing oneself. Extramarital. Adulterous. Occurring outside marriage. Geopolitical. A study of the influence of such factors as geography, economics, and demography on the politics and especially the foreign policy of a state. Heliocentric. Having the sun at the center, usually in reference to a solar system or orbit. Horticulture. Small-scale agriculture. the art or science of cultivating gardens, gardening. Hypothetical. Conditional, contingent upon some hypothesis antecedent. Based upon a hypothesis, conjectural. A possible or hypothetical situation or proposition. Inauspicious. Not auspicious, ill-omened. Incandescent. Emitting light as a result of being heated. Shining very brightly. Showing intense emotion, as of a performance, etc. An incandescent lamp or bulb. Inconsolable. Not consolable, unable to be consoled or comforted, usually due to grief, disappointment, or other distress. Inexplicable. Impossible to explain, not easily accounted for. Inordinately. To an unusually or disproportionately large degree, excessively. Interstellar. Among the stars. Between the stars. Liquefaction. Process of being, or state of having been, made liquid from either a solid or a gas. The liquid or semi-liquid, that results from this process. Manslaughter. The unlawful killing of a human, either in negligence or incidentally to the commission of some unlawful act, but without specific malice, or upon a sudden excitement of anger, considered less culpable than murder, but more culpable than justifiable homicide. The slaying of a human being. Metamorphose. To undergo some transformation. To undergo metamorphosis. To transform something so that it has a completely different appearance. Misanthropic. Hating or disliking mankind. Mockumentary. A film or television program presented, as if it were a documentary, but that is not factual, and often a parody or satire. Narcissistic. Having an inflated idea of one's own importance. Obsessed with one's own self-image and ego. A narcissist. Pigmentation. Coloration of human, plant or animal tissue, especially by pigment. Polarization. The separation of positive and negative charges in a nucleus, atom, molecular system. The production of polarized light, the direction in which the electric field of an electromagnetic wave points. The grouping of opinions into two extremes. The production or the condition of polarity. Postprandial. After a meal, especially after dinner. Preposterous. Absurd, or contrary to common sense. Prepubescent. Before the age at which a person begins puberty. A person who has not begun puberty. Presbyterian. Of or pertaining to a presbyter, or to ecclesiastical government by presbyters, relating to those who uphold church government by presbyters, also, to the doctrine, discipline, and worship of a communion so governed. Prophylactic. Serving to prevent or protect against an undesired effect, especially disease or pregnancy. A prophylactic condom. Any device or mechanism intended to prevent harmful consequences. A medicine which preserves or defends against disease, a preventive, U.S., specifically, a prophylactic condom. Repercussion. A consequence or ensuing result of some action. The act of driving back, or the state of being driven back, reflection, reverberation. Resurrection. Body snatching. The act of arising from the dead, and becoming alive again. Sensuousness. Result of being relating to or affecting the senses, rather than the intellect. Simultaneous. To be solved for the same values of variables. Happening at the same moment. Sporadically. At an occasional, infrequent, or irregular frequency. Triumphantly. in a way, that shows great happiness or joy at a victory or achievement. Tuberculosis. An infectious disease of humans and animals caused by a species of Mycobacterium, usually Mycobacterium tuberculosis, mainly infecting the lungs, where it causes tubercles characterized by the expectoration of mucus in sputum, fever, weight loss, and chest pain, and transmitted through inhalation or ingestion of bacteria. Unacquainted. Not usual, unfamiliar, strange. Not acquainted, unfamiliar with someone or something. Unfathomable. Difficult to penetrate. Impossible to fathom or understand. Unpardonable. Impossible to pardon, impossible to excuse or justify. Vainglorious. With excessive vanity or unwarranted pride. Vocalization. The production of musical sounds using the voice, especially as an exercise. The addition of these diacritics in the respective phonemes to a word, the spoken form the word thereby receives. Any specific mode of utterance, pronunciation. The act of vocalizing or something vocalized, a vocal utterance. The use of speech to express an idea. Antibacterial. Opposing the theory that diseases are caused by bacteria. Killing or inhibiting bacteria. A drug having the effect of killing or inhibiting bacteria. Approximation. An imprecise solution or result that is adequate for a defined purpose. The act of bringing together the edges of tissue to be sutured. The act, process or result of approximating. Condescending. Assuming a tone of superiority, or a patronizing attitude. Having or showing a feeling of patronizing superiority. Demonstrative. That specifies the thing or person referred to. Given to open displays of emotion. That serves to demonstrate, show or prove. Desegregation. The ending of a policy of racial segregation policy that enforced separation of different racial groups in a country, community, or establishment. Extrapolating. Present participle of extrapolate. Gratification. A reward, a gratuity. The act of gratifying, or pleasing, either the mind, the taste, or the appetite. A feeling of pleasure, satisfaction. Homosexuality. Sexual activity with a person of the same sex. The state of being sexually attracted primarily or exclusively to persons of the same sex. Incarceration. A constriction of the hernial sac, rendering it irreducible, but not great enough to cause strangulation. The act of confining, or the state of being confined, imprisonment. Incorruptible. Incapable of being bribed or morally corrupted, inflexibly just and upright. Not subject to corruption or decay. A person whose body does not decompose after death, a sign of holiness. One of an ancient religious sect of Alexandria, whose adherents believed that the body of Christ was incorruptible, and that he suffered hunger, thirst, and pain only in appearance. Industrialist. One who performs or enjoys industrial music. A person involved in the ownership or management of an industrial enterprise. Inexhaustible. Impossible to exhaust, unlimited. Intergalactic. Occurring between galaxies. Metallography. The study of the structure of metals and their alloys, by any of a variety of techniques. A process for utilizing metal plates in a manner similar to lithographic stones. A process of imitating the grain of wood on metals. Perfectionist. Demanding perfection, being a perfectionist, imposing overly high standards. Someone who is unwilling to settle for anything that is not perfect, or does not meet extremely high standards. Philosophical. Detached, calm, stoic. of, or pertaining to, philosophy. Rational, analytic or critically minded, thoughtful. Privatization. The transfer of a company or organization from government to private ownership and control. Schizophrenia. Any condition in which disparate or mutually exclusive activities coexist, a lack of decision between options. A psychiatric diagnosis denoting a persistent, often chronic mental illness characterized by abnormal perception, thinking, behavior and emotion, often marked by delusions. Schizophrenic. Behaving as if one has more than one personality, wildly changeable. Afflicted with schizophrenia, having difficulty with perception of reality. Of or relating to schizophrenia. A person suffering from schizophrenia. Scintillating. Brilliantly or impressively clever, exciting, amusing or witty. Sparkling or shining brightly. Serendipitous. By serendipity, by unexpected good fortune. Good, beneficial, favorable. Spontaneously. In a spontaneous manner, naturally, voluntarily. Surreptitious. Stealthy, furtive, well hidden, covert especially movements. Transatlantic. On, spanning or crossing, or from the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. Unequivocally. In a way, that leaves no doubt, in an unequivocal or unambiguous manner, unquestionably. Unsympathetic. Not feeling, showing, or expressing sympathy. Untrustworthy. Not deserving of trust, unreliable. Valedictorian. The individual in a graduating class who graduates with the highest grades. The individual in a graduating class who delivers the farewell or valedictory address, often the person who graduates with the highest grades. Classification. The act of forming into a class or classes, a distribution into groups, as classes, orders, families, etc., according to some common relations or attributes. Existentialism. The philosophical views of a particular thinker, associated with the existentialist movement. A 20th-century philosophical movement emphasizing the uniqueness of each human existence and freely making its self-defining choices. Horticulturist. A gardener, a person interested or practicing horticulture. Interplanetary. Existing or occurring between planets. Irreconcilable. Incompatible, discrepant, contradictory. Unable to be reconciled, opposed, uncompromising. Something that cannot be reconciled. Quintessential. Of the nature of a quintessence in all senses, ultimate. Reconnaissance. The act of scouting, or exploring especially military or medical, to gain information. Slaughterhouse. The scene of a massacre. A place where animals are slaughtered. Transcendental. Mystical or supernatural. Superior, surpassing all others, extraordinary, transcendent. Verisimilitude. Faithfulness to its own rules, internal cohesion. A statement which merely appears to be true. The property of seeming true, of resembling reality, resemblance to reality, realism. Autobiographical. Of or relating to a person's life, or an account of a person's life, as told by the subject. Characterization. A description of the distinctive nature, or features of someone or something. Micropropagation. The propagation of plant clones from a microscopic piece of tissue from a single plant. Uncharacteristically. In a way that is not typical of a particular person or thing.